Harley-Davidson recently released details on the 2024 model of the Pan America. Now in its fourth production year, what changes, what updates can we expect on this bike? But first, let's do a quick recap of the updates that have been made year to year so far. So beside me is my 2021 Pan America Special, right? The OG, the first release. In 2022, the biggest change we saw right out the gate was Harley updated the engine wire harness to make it compatible with an optional quick shifter, right? That's only available for model year 2022 and newer. And we also saw a running change in January of 2022 with an updated starter clutch that addressed the issue that plagued the early model bikes with failed start attempts. 2023, we saw a heat shield added around the catalytic converter, and we also saw a deflector added just behind the radiator on the left-hand side of the bike, right? Both of these things done to address the amount of heat people were feeling coming off of this bike while riding. We saw an updated Jiffy stand bracket that was reinforced, and we also saw a new radiator that included a mounting tab to secure the lower radiator hose and hold it away from the exhaust header. And there were two updates made this year to the windscreen mechanism. First, they added springs to the windshield stops to help reduce the amount of shaking and vibration when the windshield was lifted all the way into the highest position. And then around February of 23, they came out with an updated design that replaced these individual two pins on the windscreen mechanism with a single crossbar that goes across and ties them together, and then an updated vent piece that allows for that crossbar. And that brings us to 2024. So what do we know about the latest model so far? Well, one, according to the website, in the US, it's only the Pan America Special that's available now. The standard model of Pan America has been dropped. It is still listed on Harley-Davidson's European website, so it should still be available in other markets. But for the US market, no more base model, only the special. We also see, according to the website, that the bikes have an updated graphic scheme that emphasizes the 1250 size of this engine. That, along with the fact that the standard is discontinued in the US, is really driving speculation that this might be the year we see that mid-size Pan America released. Other things we see on the website, the engine guards seem to be slightly different now with a tab welded to the front of them that looks like it could be used for mounting something, perhaps mounting for highway pegs or for auxiliary lights. Not quite sure what that's about yet. The biggest change I've seen so far on the 24 models is an updated electrical system. First, we have updated charging system that still makes the same maximum 45 amp output, but according to Harley-Davidson, the new charging system is supposed to put out more power at lower RPMs and at idle. Now, if you're hoping to be able to install and retrofit those newer charging system components into your older Pan America, technically you can, but in addition to replacing the stator and the rotor, you also have to replace the entire cooling manifold because it's been machined now to allow extra clearance for those larger parts. And Harley-Davidson's very specific to call out in their service bulletin that if you try and install the new charging components without replacing everything as a kit, it is going to damage the engine. The other big change we're seeing in the electrical system is a new battery, right? Gone is the 225 cold cranking amp battery from the old Sportster platform. It has now been replaced with a larger 315 cold cranking amp battery from the Softail platform. And along with that new battery, to make it fit, We also have updated part numbers for the battery mounting tray, the bracket that goes on the front of the battery that holds the voltage regulator, as well as a new part number for the positive battery cable. Right, so there's quite a few pieces you'll have to replace if you want to try and retrofit that larger battery into an older Pan America. The other electrical system update we see is new part numbers for the engine control module, the body control module, and the main wire harness and engine wire harness, which by itself isn't that groundbreaking because we saw updates throughout the years, right, from 21 to 22 to 23. There were different part numbers along the way as well. But that newest part number was always listed as a replacement for the earlier bikes, meaning that when I go and look up a ECM for my 21 Pan America, it's actually going to give me the new part number from a 23 Pan America, right? All those parts were backwards compatible. Whatever changes and updates that were made were not so drastic that they wouldn't work on older bikes. But that does not appear to be the case with the 24 model, right? Those electrical components and those wire harnesses are not listed as approved fitments for the older bikes. So something has changed along the way with those components that they can no longer be retrofitted to the older bike. Not quite sure what. I don't have access to a 24 service manual to compare wiring diagrams and pinouts or anything. I'm just going off of the part numbers from the parts catalog. Something else I find interesting is what hasn't changed through the years, right? So from 21 all the way up to 24, right, the suspension components are unchanged. The fuel pump is unchanged, which I personally find interesting because there have been a number of reports of failed fuel pumps. I was a victim to that as well. And another piece that is unchanged is that lower radiator hose. I guess Harley's happy with their solution of the clamp pulling it closer to the radiator, but the hose itself remains unchanged. Harley is having an event on January 24th where they're going to release details about new models for 2024. Are we going to see further updates about the Pan America platform on that day? We'll have to wait and find out. As always, folks, thanks for watching. Ride safe.